The new position request library is a place that users drop information about new positions that they'd like to have created. And then there's an approval process. We've already created the request new position workflow as a straight-through approval process. First, we notify a submitter that we got their email request. Then we have the area VP approve it, the finance VP, the HR VP, and finally we create the position. But what if those steps don't necessarily have to happen in a sequence? Specifically, what if after the area vice president has approved, we don't care whether the finance vice president or HR vice president approves first, we just need them both to approve. Let's take a look at what that workflow would look like and how it's a little bit different. If you want to contrast this with the sequential workflow, then return to the previous movie and take a look at building a workflow with conditions. But I'm going to create a new list workflow. I'm going to call this position approval. And we'll write this up. Remember to put in some notes about who created this and when. But this is an approval process with parallel steps. Let's say OK. Now, the first couple of activities would still be the same. We would have a step that said notify submitter. And we're going to send an email to them. And then we'll have a second step that is get area vice president approval, and we would email them and ask them for their approval and wait until we had it. The next two actions that can happen in parallel, I'm going to insert a step. We're going to call that step get other VP approvals, and then we're going to insert a parallel block. Now the following actions will run in parallel, and I'm going to insert first one step, and then I'm going to insert the next, and I want to be really careful where I'm inserting. There are three different places here. One is the actions that would have to do with this step 8, which let's say this is finance VP approval. So if I have actions related to that, like send this person an email, I'm going to put them right here. But I want to make sure that my other parallel actions aren't out here. Notice that this is out of the parallel block, but right there. So I'm going to click and insert a step. And there in the parallel actions with the gray line to the left are my two items that will happen at the same time, HR VP approval. Then I could add other items after this step that still had to do with VP approvals but weren't in parallel. Or I can simply insert another step for our final activity, and that final activity is going to be to create the position. So how this works is notify submitter has to proceed get area VP approval, and get area VP approval has to proceed the other approvals. But as soon as the area VP has approved, we drop into these parallel actions, and we will be emailing the finance vice president, and we will be sending an email to the HR vice president. And when both of these activities have concluded, then the position will be created because we'll go on to the next step. So this is how the parallel block works. This parallel block is new in SharePoint Designer 2010, and it should make your workflows go more quickly in places where parallelism works. We're not going to be waiting, for example, for the finance VP to come back from vacation and then get all of her work caught up before the HR VP can go ahead and do this approval. So watch for places that you can use parallel blocks in your workflows to make them run more quickly.